I've had a couple of people propose games where you have to rescue somebody. That's a great plot. Um, and then inquire, like, how do I do that? Well, there's a couple of tricks to that. There's a couple of pieces. So for the person that you're trying to rescue, typically they're tied up, or there's something you have to do. You have to free them, and then you have to, they'll follow you out. So the way we're going to do that is we're going to add a variable to our game, and that variable is going to store whether that person has been freed or not. And when we take some action that frees that character, then we will set that variable to 1. So we'll start that variable off being 0, indicating that that NPC is not free. When we free that NPC, we'll set it to 1. Now we know we can check that variable, and we'll know whether that NPC has been freed or not. And then how do we get out with that NPC? How do we make the NPC follow us? Well, that's pretty easy. All we need to do is make an event. And events are code that run every turn, and we'll say if that NPC has been freed, and we'll check the variable to do that, which means if that variable is 1, then put that NPC where the player is. So set the NPC's location, or the NPC's parent, to the player's parent, and that way the NPC will follow the player around. So let's take a look at how we'll do that. Okay, so here is a little game I mocked up just for this exercise here. So I have, let's look at our rooms here. So we've got a chamber here, and we have a wizard, and the wizard is tied up in the chamber. We've got 2 corridors here, and we have a knife, which is in the player's inventory, because the player is going to use that to cut the ropes. Where are the ropes? Well, the ropes are going to be tying up the wizard here. So where's our wizard? Okay, so our wizard is in the chamber. Let's put our ropes in the chamber too. And let's make the ropes scenery. So that means that they're there, but they're kind of invisible. So let's take a look here. Let's run this exercise and see what we've got here. So I'm in this place called Chamber. It's a small windowless chamber. A single doorway leads out to the east. Merlin is here, bound up with heavy ropes. Okay, so why did I put the rope object in there? It's because the player might try to look at it. But more importantly, the player is going to want to cut those ropes. Maybe the player has to cut those ropes with the knife to free our NPC. So now remember I said that we needed a variable. So let's go to the variables tab here, and I'm going to add a new variable. And I'm going to call it, like, wizard freed or something, and I'm going to give it an initial value of 0, which is false. So that means logically false. So if the wizard freed is 0, that means false. All right. So now we know whether that wizard has been freed or not. We're going to use that variable to store the state of the wizard, or we keep track of whether some action has been taken or not that frees the wizard. Okay, so now let's make a function where we actually free the wizard, and I'm going to call this like cut ropes or something. Cut ropes, okay, and click add. So now I have a function called cut ropes, and what I want to do is, well, first I need to check, has the wizard already been freed? So, because we don't want the player to be able to free the wizard twice. So I'm going to make an if statement here. So I'm going to hit type if and hit tab twice. So inside of these parentheses here, I'm going to put the condition I want to test. So I'm going to say, what was it, wizard freed. Is 0, meaning the wizard is not freed. Now I'm going to free the wizard, right? And the double slash just means this is a comment. I'm just putting in a note here. Otherwise, all right, now if the wizard if I've already freed the wizard, I don't want to do it a second time. So I'm just going to put in a message here. PR, tab, that'll expand to print line. You've already done that. Okay, so we can't free the wizard twice. All right, so now if when let's print out, print, you cut the ropes, freeing Merlin, who rises to his feet, or something like that, who rises to his feet. Boom. All right. Now, what we want to do, let's move those ropes out of the world. So they're not there anymore. We call it rope. All right, so let's go back to our function here. So I'm going to move the rope out of the world, which means I'm going to set its parent or location or holder to be off screen. So I'm going to say rope dot L tab tab. That'll expand to location equals off screen. So how do I get off screen in there? OF tab tab. It expands to off screen. So now I've removed the ropes from the world. And now what I want to do is set that variable wizard freed equal to 1. So the wizard, I've now changed the value of my variable, which means like the next time, maybe if I try to cut the ropes, well, actually it might say you don't see the ropes, but it would come down here and say you've already done that because wizard freed is no longer 0. Now notice anytime I'm testing a condition, if I'm testing are two things equal, that's the double equal sign. If I'm testing for are they not equal, that's exclamation point equal sign. That means not equal to. But double equals means test for equality. So this is now I'm going to print out a message, move the rope off screen so it's not there anymore, and then I'm going to change that variable to indicate that the wizard is now freed. All right. So there's my function. Now I have to make a sentence out of that. So let's see. If we want to cut our ropes, we need to add the verb cut. So I'm going to go to my verb tab and I'm going to add the verb cut. And let's say I'm going to go to verb checks now, and I'm going to say if you want to cut something, then you have to see it. So I'm going to check see direct object, right? So now if I want to cut something, I want to check that I can see it. All right. So watch this. If I run this now, I hate that. I go east and I try to cut the rope. It says you don't see that here, right? Because there's no rope here. Cut rope. Probably say I don't understand. I don't follow you. Okay. So now that we've got our verb check, let's make a sentence. So the sentence is where we say, we're going to create a mapping that says when the player types this, I want you to run this function. So we'll say when the player types cut rope, now I want to call the cut ropes function. And I'm going to look add. All right. Now let's try this again. So now when I type cut rope, it's going to run that function that we wrote where we cut the ropes and free the wizard. All right, so let's launch this again. And I will say, if we go east, they say cut ropes. You don't see that here, west. Okay, Merlin is here bound with heavy ropes, cut ropes. Oops, cut ropes. You cut the ropes, freeing Merlin who rises to his feet. Okay, typo. And then, now let me try that again. No, actually, watch this. So I typed vars there real quick, and what that does is it dumps out the variables in the game. And you can see that wizard freed is now set to 1, right? So if I run this and I type vars to dump out my variables, you can see that wizard freed is 0. And now if I type cut ropes, you cut the ropes freeing the wizard who rises to his feet, and I type vars again, you can see wizard freed is now 1. Why is it 1? Because we set it to 1 right there. Okay, so now we've freed our NPC, and also if we try that a second time, cut ropes, it's going to say you don't see that here because actually we already cut the ropes, or we moved the ropes off screen. That's why. But if I delete this line, let's you'll see what happens here. Cut ropes. You cut the ropes. Okay, now let's try that again. Cut ropes. You've already done that. Okay, so what we're doing there is preventing the player from doing it a second time. All right, so now we've freed the player here. You know, actually, maybe we want to change the score too. We could say score equals score plus, you know, plus 25 or something. Give the player 25 points, semicolon. Score equals score plus 25, semicolon. So statements need to end with semicolons. All right, now I'm going to save this. Let's do the bit where we get the NPC to follow us around. This is going to be an event. This is going to happen every time the player enters a command. So let's see here. So what are we going to do? Let's call this thing like wizard follows player. Oops, I guess I don't have enough. I'll just call it wizard follows. And I'm going to click create. Now, what I'm going to do here is put in some code that says if the wizard has been freed, put the wizard where the player is. If wizard freed equals 1, that means the wizard has been freed because we set that to 1 when we free the wizard. Now we're going to move the wizard where the player is. Wizard dot L tab dot location equals PL tab. So that expands to player dot L tab semicolon. So this says set the wizard's location to the player's location. So single equal sign means take the thing on the right and assign it to the thing on the left. And I'll put in a little note here, just to a little double slash is just a note. Move wizard to players, or make wizard follow player. All right, so let's save that and run that. So remember, this is going to run every turn. So let's say launch player, cut ropes. You cut the ropes, freeing Merlin. Okay, we rises to his feet. Okay, now let's go east. And let me type look here. Merlin is here, bound up with heavy. Oh, okay. So Merlin is here. His description is a little wonky though. Look, right. So Merlin is following us around now. The trick is, why is it saying that he's bound with heavy ropes? Well, let's go back to the wizard here, and you can see his initial description is Merlin is here bound up with heavy ropes. So what we need to do is when we free Merlin, we need to change this description. So to do that, let's just go back to that let's go back to our function where we free the wizard, and we'll change Merlin's description. Or was he wizard or Merlin? I forget. I think his name is wizard. So let's go to back to our code here, and we'll say wizard dot. Now, if you forget these properties, they're all listed out down here. So how do I change the initial description? It's just initial underscore description. Initial underscore description equals Merlin is here. Or we'll say Merlin is standing here. Boom. How about the wizard Merlin is standing here? All right, let's save it and run it. So you can see that we can use the dot operator to change the initial description on Merlin. So let's try this one more time, and I think we've got it. So here's Merlin. Let's cut the ropes. Cut the ropes, freeing Merlin, who rises to his feet. Look. Okay, the wizard Merlin is standing here. Okay, right, that's, see, now his initial description has been fixed. The initial description is how that object is described to the player. And if there isn't one, it just says there is a blank here. And we don't want it to say there is a wizard here. That just doesn't really sound right, because this is an NPC, but the wizard Merlin is standing here, which sounds a lot better. And then now if we go east, right, you can, and we type look, right, the wizard Merlin is standing here, right? So Merlin is now following us around after we freed him. So there's an example of how to construct a scenario where you free somebody by cutting the ropes, and then using a variable to track whether they've been freed or not, and then have them follow you around based on whether they've been freed or not. So hopefully that wasn't too bad. I mean, it seems to work out pretty well. It seems like there's a lot of uses for that kind of scenario. So there you go. Hope that works for you. If it doesn't, just let me know and I'll be happy to help you.